appreciate all this. This is Mark Cullum is the leader of this, but you can rest assured.
Color party! Oh! Color party! Left! Turn!
Dignitaries present. Darrell Sampson, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Veterans Affairs, Canada. Stan Cho, the Associate Minister of Transportation of Ontario. The Honourable Todd Smith, Minister of Energy for Ontario and MPP for the riding of the Bay of Quinte. His Worship Jim Harrison, Mayor of Quinte West. Thank you as well to our friends at En Route. Harar, Kara Gionzian, to Sergeant Alan Buchanan and Sergeant members of the Royal Canadian Legion here in Trenton 110, one of the largest branches of the Canadian Legion in Ontario. We're gathered here at En Route Service Centre on the Highway of Heroes. Well over 7 years ago, we at the Trees for Life came up with an idea that would help ensure that future generations of Canadians did not forget about the significant Canadian volunteers, 7 full-time staff, 3,200 individual Canadians who have donated their own hard-earned to help make this happen, as well as, of course, our 3 levels of government who are all being honored here this afternoon. 2.5 million trees. Why 2.5 when we originally said 2 million? Well, because we created a new industry standard of tree survivability of 85%. We knew that some of the trees would die, but we wanted to make sure that we had planted enough that there would be 1 tree for every Canadian lost at war since the War of 1812. 117,000 trees right here on the Highway of Heroes. And then 1.8 million more, 1 for each Canadian who volunteered for military service during times of war. That was our goal, and so here we are. That legacy by unveiling 2 spectacular installations, one in Port Hope and the other here in Trenton, to commemorate the fact that the Highway of Heroes corridor is now reforested with a tree for every military hero. These installations are about a living memorial that will last forever, because squirrels and birds tend to do their job best, which is what? Planting seeds. To reach and surpass our tree planting goals. And while it was a private sector that initially led the charge, including donations from over 3,500 Canadians from coast to coast to coast, it was a combination of both.
Stan Cho, Minister Smith, the Worship Mr. Harrison, veterans, community members, friends, amis. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today to celebrate this special occasion during Veterans Week, which is even more special, of course. Merci d'être ici pour cet événement pendant cette semaine tellement importante. For years, this stretch of highway, 401, has been known as the Highway of Heroes. It's where Canadians were drawn to pay respect to our fallen when Canada's soldiers were killed in Afghanistan some 20 years ago. And it's where they've come ever since, whenever the repatriated remains of one of our own have come home. Over the years, we've seen thousands of people turn out to stand on the side of the highway, the road, or on the overpass above the highway. And together, they have reflected on the meaning of sacrifice, waving proudly the Canadian flags in the final patriotic salute to Canada's heroes. Lorsque notre mission en Afghanistan arrivait à sa fin, vers 2014, un groupe de Canadiens voulait transformer l'autoroute des héros en hommage vivant aux vétérans canadiens. And that is where, of course, the Highway for Heroes Tree campaign was born. For the past 8 years, some over 2 million, 2.5 million to be exact, trees have been planted along the Highway 401, the corridor to honor each and every one of the Canadian Armed Forces members who have served in our military. Veteran Affairs, of course, was very pleased to support this project by providing nearly $3 million. We'll say $3 million since that's what he said. I think it looks even better for us. Over $3 million over 3 years, starting, of course, in 2019 to 2020. Today, we celebrate the end of that campaign, but not the end of remembering. We will remember forever, and this is one very important tool for this very important community for veterans and active members of the armed forces. And we're unveiling a sculpture that will stand here as a reminder to all who travel along the Highway of Heroes of the sacrifices and the achievements of our Canadian military. Without giving the name out, because that's not my job, you know, I do want to say that it's very, very much appropriate, this sculpture that you will see very shortly. This is the season to remember. And no matter where we are or what we do, the memory of our fallen will never be forgotten. They'll always be close to us. They are in our hearts. They are in our minds, with us as we remember their service and their sacrifice. On behalf of the Minister Macaulay and the Government of Canada, thank you to everyone who helped in planting the trees on this highway since 2014. And to the artist, Ruth Abernathy, for finding such a unique way to honor the service members. Lest we forget. Merci beaucoup.
That's it. Take that with you. And I'll tell you, I worked over there in 1963 as a young boy. And this highway, all the people at FTO, you've got to make it 4 lanes. Yeah, right through to Cornwall. You've got to do that for us. Yeah, so that's my message. But anyways, Mark, I really appreciate your dreams, and I'm proud to have had the opportunity to be a part of them. Really proud. When he came to me and said, "Look, this is a project," I just said, "What can we do?" And we're still here with them. And this is not the end. This is not the end. Mark Cullen isn't finished dreaming. And we're going to be with you, Mark, on your next project and the next one. And we're all proud of what you've accomplished. So again, to each and every one of you, from the people I represent, I'll tell you, my son owns some land up on top of the hill right here. And I'm just a little ways. So I'm here for a long time yet. Colonel Dahl, I really thank you for the work you do. And I enjoy this show I see on a daily basis. I really do. And I know that the men and women in those aircraft are going someplace in the world to make it better for other people. So Mark, you've just accomplished that today. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the warmth and the nice breeze.
Thank you, Your Worship. You know, that you were in my dreams was not something I really wanted made public. I thought it was just kind of between us, but thanks for revealing that. We have MPP Tom Smith here, and would you like to come forward and say a few words? We'd love for you to do that. Thank you.
I'll be real quick because much has been said already, but Parliamentary Secretary, it's great to have you all the way from Nova Scotia. I know Halifax is one of the only airports in the world that has lobster actually in the airport that you can purchase. They're swimming around, and I noticed you didn't bring any with you this morning. But it is great that you're here all the way from Nova Scotia to be a part of this great celebration. And my colleague, Associate Minister Stan Cho, a great friend and fellow suffering Toronto Maple Leafs fan, and my good friend, the Mayor of Quinte West, Jim Harrison. And he didn't say what quite often he does say is that we're very fortunate here in Quinte West to have an air show every day. And that's part of the reason why I know Quinte West jumped on board. We're all very, very proud of our men and women that serve every single day, not just in Canada, but around the world, in making sure that our ideals that we have as Canadians are upheld right around the world. And so we appreciate Colonel Dahl and all of the men and women at 8 Wing Trenton for the work that you do. I was one of those members, as Mayor Harrison was, and some others that are here, that stood on the overpasses or lined the fences at CFB Trenton when Globemasters or Hercules aircraft were coming back with the remains of Canadian soldiers or members of the military that had paid the ultimate sacrifice in Afghanistan, all 158 of them. And we stood there with tears in our eyes alongside family members. I was a member of the local media at the time at Quinte Broadcasting, but many men and women would take time off work. They would join those who were emergency first responders on the overpasses or at the fences to do their part, to thank those who had made the ultimate sacrifice. It was incredible to watch the Highway of Heroes evolve into what it became, and ultimately leading to this living legacy for those who laid down their lives for our country abroad. And I think of those 158 families today, but I also think of the thousands of families who had members in the First and Second World War who paid the ultimate sacrifice. And Jim, Mayor Harrison will know exactly who we're talking about. I was at the Frankfurt Legion Hall on Saturday night for their veterans dinner, and we lost the last of the Second World War veterans in the last year, Don Anderson. He passed away at the age of 94, but too many of those Second World War veterans are now gone. But it's because of this work that's been done by Mark Cullen and his team to leave that lasting legacy. And I can't wait to see the sculpture from Ruth Abernathy. She's done some tremendous work in our region already, and I really look forward to seeing the work that is going to be unveiled here in just a few minutes. So on behalf of all of the residents of Bay of Quinte, Stan did a great job bringing remarks on behalf of the Premier and Minister Mulrooney and from the province, but on behalf of the residents of Bay of Quinte who were there lining those fences and lining those highways and lining those overpasses, we thank you for all the work that you've done over the last 7 years, and I'm glad to see your dreams become a reality. Thank you, Mark.
Helped us muddle through the last two and a half years of COVID-19. So you might like to learn more about that, and we'd be pleased to tell you. I'd also like to acknowledge Scott Wentworth, who's behind us here. Scott is the inspired landscape architect who created the ultimate design of the Highway of Heroes tree campaign. That is to say, they're not just lined up. There is a design behind all that. There's a design to the garden here today. And so if you don't mind, a round of applause for Scott Wentworth, all of your work. Local boy, by the way, Prince Edward County. Yeah, good to know. Now, if it seems as though we have a marathon of speakers here today, please forgive me, because we've just completed an 8-year marathon of tree planting. It was quite early in our campaign that we came to the realization that we were going to have to do more than just plant trees. It was an imperative that we added another educational component to our campaign to ensure that future generations of Canadians and travelers of this highway would be informed and not forget why we did this. These trees, after all, don't belong to us. Oh, maybe we're together, over 4,000 of us, responsible for making it happen. But it belongs to future generations of Canadians. In fact, it will belong as it contributes to our environment in a positive way over the next 50, 100, 200 years to people we haven't even met yet because they haven't been born. Environmentally, the 550 million tons of carbon capture on this highway will benefit future Canadians. We have permanently installed plaques to tell our story off the highway, but the opportunity to collaborate with En route represented perhaps our greatest opportunity for this public education and legacy component of our campaign that will last for generations. Not only are the En route service centers located directly on the Highway of Heroes, but they see millions and millions of visitors every year. Between Trenton and the Port Hope locations, over 5 million visitors a year. This is what we chose. This is why we chose these locations as the home of our final component of this campaign. Awe-inspiring art installations that compare, or rather capture, the essence of our campaign, inspiration. And we just can't wait to unveil them to you in just a moment. But before we do that, I would like to thank the En route team for their willingness to collaborate and to make the commitment to this project, and for providing us with this incredible opportunity to tie a bow around our campaign.
Mr. Sampson. Thank you. 6-4, always get to that. Member Barman Sampson, Mr. Smith, Mr. Cho, mayors, everybody. It's Chief Warren Ensign and I. It's a privilege to be here. We feel very humbled by this. Like a few of you said, a lot has been said, but it's people like Mark and all the volunteers that makes military service a great thing, a great privilege for us to do. People at 8 Wing are fighting the war indeed, and fighting for Canada every day. We have troops deployed across all continents, in Europe, in Africa, in the Middle East, and we wouldn't be able to do it without your support. So thank you very much, and we appreciate that. And I commit that members of 8 Wing and CFB Trenton will, hopefully not, but if the call comes and people give it the ultimate sacrifice, we'll continue to honor them on their final journey from Trenton to Toronto. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have my own list of thanks. I will say again to Mike Hurley, who my comments come from the seclusion and the isolation of the studio, having committed the project about year 6 of 10. So all of the people who were at work were well beyond the reach or from the view of my window. But certainly Mike offered excellent project management and we had questions asked and answered as ever. You know, these types of things happen, and I think real celebration always happens just beyond the reach of personal convenience and comfort. But I think those are the moments we remember. Whoever sits down to reminisce about the routines, it's the things beyond routine that are celebrated and stay in mind forever. I will extend my thanks to En route because this is the perfect place for this, and we were offered nothing short of a red carpet welcome in every Zoom meeting and on location. And Scott, the sites look fantastic. Congratulations. When I first described this sculpture concept to the En route team in a Zoom meeting, I asked them to imagine a road trip, because few things are more Canadian than the road trips that keep us connected to one another. And we've all done it. You know, there isn't a person that I know who hasn't had a considerable chunk of time on the Trans-Canada and on the 401 specifically. For that team, I described a gleaming beacon, possibly the world's largest nightlight, to indicate a place of safe refuge and renewal. And this setting is just perfect. The sculpture concept arrived when I was in the middle of a phone call about 2003. I'd had a friend call, and he was being married for the second time, and he wanted something to commemorate his new blended family. It was obvious. There was a tangible strength and a lot of beauty in the bonds that held his family together. Their gift was done in copper, and I did a second iteration in sheet stainless for my parents. And of course, all the grandchildren were hidden in the profiles of the branches. Tedious, but very effective. However, here, presence in absence is, I think, the fullest rendering of the idea, because I was able to add dimension to that unique space and the unique bonds that grow between individuals. Here we've got 76 heroes from the Canadian Armed Forces featured as the spaces, in the spaces of a design that has silhouette portraits. They need not be here to be with us. How perfect that presence and absence is at this key point on the Highway of Heroes. Every tree that was planted as part of this campaign represents a life story, and here in bronze we get to acknowledge and celebrate our enduring connection to those lives. My thoughts are with you all on Remembrance Day, and congratulations on a terrific success.
You're going to give us a countdown, Mike?
Yep. All right. 3, 2, 1.
There we are. Lovely. Ruth Abernathy. So, Ruth will explain what this is all about.
And tonight, hopefully, it will actually have a light inside. Thank you, Scott. So it really does act as the world's largest nightlight to beckon you to a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.